Hey, it's Checker Pro Joe here on Checker Pro Radio. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it may have. Your air conditioning system actually can freeze up, and you may not even know it has frozen. And when I mean frozen, I mean it can be a block of ice. And that happens on your coils if you have a problem. So I brought Sal in from Service All Stars. He's our expert today in the air conditioning field. Hey, Sal, how are you?
I'm doing great, Checker Pro Joe. How's it going?
I am living the dream. Thank you so much for joining me today and being the expert here on the program. So, you know what I'm talking about, right? Every once in a while, you'll get a call and someone will say that their AC system doesn't seem to be cooling properly. And you'll go out and you'll look at the system and you're like, yeah, what I thought. There's a block of ice on the coils. What's happened?
Uh, Multiple things that happen. You know, the system could be low on freon. If it's low on freon, obviously, maybe it wasn't charged properly. Could be that if it's an older system, there's a leak somewhere. That leak needs to be found, repaired, and recharged. Also, it could be a dirty filter, lack of maintenance. You could have a evaporate if you have a lot of times what this is, people have pets and the pet hair will get through the filter and onto the coil, or they might be running the system without a filter, which is really bad to do. And the coil gets clogged up. As soon as the coil gets clogged up, it'll freeze up. It'll freeze the coil up for lack of airflow. You got to imagine, there's freon at 20 degrees running through the coil, and there's no warm air to keep that coil temperature a lot higher than the freezing point. And so the little bit of moisture that gets onto the coil starts accumulating into ice. And then it just, starts grabbing more moisture out of the air, more moisture. And then it's a frozen situation. And once it's frozen, you won't be able to get any air out of your fence.
I've heard from experts such as yourself that if you know it's frozen, the best thing to do is turn the system off so it can melt. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Do not run the system the way it is, because what ends up happening is that, not to get technical, but freon has oil inside of it. That oil is lubricating the compressor, and the state of the freon has to be in a gas state to get back into the compressor. So what'll happen is that if you keep running it while it's frozen, the the freon is not in the state of gas. It remains in a state of liquid, and that liquid gets back into the compressor. Well, the compressor can't compress liquid; it can only compress gas, and so the compressor could bust.
Mm. And now it's
And that,
getting more expensive because really
oh
it
yeah,
could have been just dirty coils because the filter was dirty.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have a frozen coil, get us out there. We'll come out there. We'll send an expert technician and get it fixed in a jiffy.
Yeah, I have seen coils generally because they've been damaged. Maybe there's a hole in them and so forth. Been pulled out of homes surrounded by a block of ice. And I'm like, come on, really? And they're like, yeah, this thing is so heavy. It's ice. And it's really hard to understand how there could be so much ice in a hot space. And because it doesn't seem normal. Because if you put a regular block of ice in that space, it would melt. But it'll continue. If the system is running, it can continue, as you said, pulling moisture out, freezing, moisture, freezing, freezing. And that alone can ruin your coil, ruin it because it's expanding its weight. It could tear it up even more.
That's absolutely true. The coil is made out of aluminum, and aluminum is pretty soft. It's not meant to hold a block of ice, that's for sure.
Yeah, and that's the story on ice. So if you think you have an icing problem, which you don't always know it's going to be that issue, turn it off and call Sal and his team at Service All Stars. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you joining me today here on
Thank
the
you,
program.
thank you for having us.